Time now for sleepers, breakouts, and busts. Connor Rogers and Matthew Berry back with you here on the Happy Hour. Cheers, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. That's what that means. At a bar, I feel like, it's probably 2-for-1 jalapeno poppers back there, something like that. Listen, now that we're served by Applebee's, can we get some actual, can we get some food? Can we hook a brother up? Exactly. We had the menus.
Underwear and Applebee's.
Underwear and Applebee's. Today's a big Friday for us. All right. Time now for sleepers, breakouts, and busts.
Yeah, an exciting one to start with, right? We got to start with Michael Gallup, who it's hilarious to me, Matthew, how a guy necessarily not being ready for week one affects the perception of drafters. Mind-blowing. This is somebody that will play in a good offense with a high-end quarterback, and the target share for the taking there with Amari Cooper and Cedric Wilson out the door, guys that combine for almost 30% of that target share. It's on a platter here. You like him.
I really do. He's currently going as wide receiver 71. You got to scroll quite a bit to find yourself some Michael Gallup on Yahoo. And to your point, he's not starting the season on the physically unable to perform list. We will see if he's there week one, Sunday night, by the way, against the Buccaneers right here on NBC. I'm a company man, of course. But the fact is, so whether he's there or not, he's going to be there sooner rather than later. He's going to be the number 2 target in Dallas in what we think is a good offense. Remember, He had 7 targets last year in 5 of the 7 games last year, at least 1 end zone target in 6 of his last 9 games. Like Jerry Jones said, if this were the Super Bowl, Gallup would be lining up and playing. So we know that he's close. That's a quote from Jerry Jones on August 31st. I'm at wide receiver 59. He's going as wide receiver 71. And I'm probably too low on him at 59, to be honest with you. And so, this is a guy who last year in a much more when he was injured and in a much more crowded, lineup because they had Amari Cooper there, he was still wide receiver 43 on a points per game basis. So top 35, top 30 within the realm of possibilities for Michael Gallup on a points per game basis this year. Again, he's going as wide receiver 71. The fact that he's questionable for week one, and you bring up a great point as people head into their drafts this weekend, people are going to see that little red Q next to their name, and they're like,
they shy away.
They shy away. And so there's going to be a ton of value this weekend for guys like that aren't that hurt. Again, Zach Ertz is another, great example of that. Jay and I talked about him the other day. But I think Michael Gallup, especially at wide receiver 71, he's not even being drafted in a lot of Yahoo leagues, is a massive value this year.
It's crazy. And he's somebody that will consistently get good red zone work in this offense. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, of course, but the door is wide open for an uptick in targets. When you look at it, that is stealing.
He's a big guy that can go up and win those 50-50 balls. That he's a nice red zone target.
All right, let's talk about another one from the sleepers, another wide receiver, Josh Palmer.
An
interesting player because we have such a sample size of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams in this offense that you know what they're going to do week in and week out. We know what Austin Eckler is. The third guy kind of gets forgotten about. Why is Josh Palmer a sleeper to you?
Well, it's 2 reasons. Number one is Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. When they did not play last year, he averaged 16.4 fantasy points per game. Both Allen and Williams have dealt with injuries throughout their career. Allen on the wrong side of 30 at this moment. At least 6 targets and a touchdown in all those games last year. There were 2 games in which Allen or Williams did not play. 35% of his routes last year came out of the slot, so I think they can take advantage of Palmer. They really like him. He's had a strong preseason. And we think, as you sort of talk to people around the league in terms of what's an offense that takes the next step this year, Chargers is one of the first names out of everyone's mouth. We all expect big things out of Justin Herbert in year 3. We all expect big things out of this offense in this season. So my expectation here is that Palmer's a deeper league guy that will that will have some nice value, that will carve out standalone value. But certainly, if anything happens to Allen or Williams, he's a lock-it-in starter.
Yeah, Mike Williams basically on the injury report is questionable the entire season last year. Found a way to play on Sundays, but as you get older, that starts to get impacted. So maybe Josh Palmer gets some work as he's going
183rd overall on Yahoo. I'm at 127. Again, I'm late. Don't get crazy. When Keenan Allen and Mike Williams played last year, you got a 6% target share. But again, they had other guys there. I think Josh Palmer has had such a good preseason and keeps improving that he is clearly the number 3. And I think this offense is going to be good enough that potentially in deeper leagues, 3 wide receivers can be fantasy relevant.
And we know what Justin Herbert could do throwing the ball down the field. Palmer's the vertical guy, even more so than Keenan Allen. Mike Williams wins the jump balls, but Palmer has a little bit more juice to win down the field, especially if he gets more of those targets out of the slot. Another one, looking at the backfield, though, Michael Carter on the Jets. It's been the summer of talking about Breece Hall, to the point where you and I have talked about before, Breece Hall is probably being overdrafted.
Definitely being overdrafted.
And now it's leading to Michael Carter almost being forgotten about, even though the Jets are telling you throughout the preseason this is probably a 50-50 split in the workload total.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is more about roster construction. It's not that I think Michael Carter has this amazing year. I do think he's part of a committee on a team that we don't expect to be winning a lot of games this year. However, this is somebody who last year was pretty solid, right? This guy was a top 32 running back on a points per game basis last year. We expect the Jets to be better this year. Not a lot better, but we expect them to be better this year. He had 45% of the total rushes for the Jets, so he's not just a pass-catching back. They don't mind using him between the tackles. They like using him in a lot of different ways. I'm at 99th overall. Yahoo has him at 121. He actually had more snaps with the starters than Breece Hall in this preseason, just because of based on where they're going. Again, on Yahoo, he's going running back 44, 121 overall. I just think compared to where Breece Hall's going as a top 20 running back on Yahoo, Carter's the much better value, I think, in terms of roster construction, and he does have some passing down work.
Yeah, and Tevin Coleman, kind of a surprise cut, so now you don't have to worry of a third running back eating into those two guys.
Yeah, you'll see some Ty Johnson, but this is going to be Breece Hall and Michael Carter. Yeah.
Without a doubt. Another guy in a crowded-ish backfield, but feels like he has a defined role, Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, that's the thing. Is I think that Miles Sanders and Boston Scott are going to be competing more than people probably realize for some of those early down roles. But, you know, when you hear, and this is John McMullen reporting this, quote, that Kenneth Gainwell is, quote, penciled in for high-leverage situations like third downs, hurry-up offense, and goal line work. That's from somebody who covers the team every day. So the expectation here is that I think his value has nothing to do with Miles Sanders or Boston Scott. Like, he has a defined role in this offense, and Miles Sanders has had trouble staying healthy. He's had trouble holding onto the ball. I know they like Boston Scott here, but again, it's all about roster construction. He's going as running back 57, 156th overall on Yahoo. Like, he's basically not being drafted. He's free in many leagues, and so Gainwell, who I have at running back 44, 119th overall, like much higher than where he's going on Yahoo. I think he's pretty interesting, especially when you think about how productive this guy has been when he gets the ball. Last year, in terms of fantasy points per touch, minimum 100 touches, he had the second most fantasy points per touch, the second highest average Kenneth Gainwell did. So, like, when he gets work, he's productive, and I think he's in line for more work in this rebuilt offense. Again, Eagles, one of the best offensive lines in football, really easy schedule. He's a nice pass catcher. They can use Gainwell in a lot of different ways. I just think he's interesting going how late he's going.
I agree, and he's that next guy from Memphis, right? That is, they're running backs, but they're really unique players. Tony Pollard, another guy from Memphis. They recruit the same guy and play them the same way. They can motion out to the slot. You could do those dump screens to them. They have a very defined pass-catching role. But like you said, you're one Miles Sanders injury away from him having a much bigger role. And all the attention those tight ends command in the middle of the field, we know the talent they have wide receiver now, that might open up a lot more room for the outlets for the running back passes like Gainwell.
I've said this every single year, and I've made a profit on saying this every single year. They do not want Miles Sanders to be an every down back. He's had multiple opportunities with multiple coaching staffs to be the guy, and they have never, ever gone to him. And there's a reason for it. They don't think he can stay healthy, and he has ball security issues. So, anyway, we like Kenneth Gainwell. Let's move on now to breakouts. Some guys that we think are going to break out here. And I got an interesting call. You like my name?
I think it's interesting. Darnell Mooney.
The
first one up. Coming off a good 2021 in what was a bad offense.
Correct.
Over 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's the number that you're probably looking at that is going to jump up, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, but here's a guy who last year was the 23rd best wide receiver in fantasy in terms of total. And to your point, everything that possibly could have gone wrong for the Bears last year did. Andy Dalton in and out. You know, they had Justin Fields. He looked unprepared, I think, and I don't blame that necessarily on Fields. I think the coaching staff seemed overwhelmed. Bad offensive line. It just everything that possibly could have gone wrong for the Bears offense last year did go wrong. Allen Robinson clearly wants out. They're not getting along, right? And yet, Darnell Mooney, over 80 receptions last year, over 1,000 yards, still only the 4 touchdowns, but yet at the end of it still finished as the 23rd best wide receiver in total points in fantasy football. He was top 10 among wide receivers in both target share and total targets. He had 5 or more targets in 16 out of 17 games. He had the 4th most deep targets in the NFL.
That I love.
And from the eye test, Connor, this is something the kid can play.
Yes, he gets open down the field.
He can play. And so Allen Robinson no longer there, new offensive coordinator, new coaching staff, new regime. We expect a better year out of Justin Fields. Nowhere to go but up, right? And the thing, we had Jason Garrett on the show yesterday, and Coach Garrett, who went to Bears camp, and so he just said, "Look, here's the thing about Justin Fields: he can make every throw, and they want to get vertical, and they're going to have to because of his speed. I think with Mooney, they're going to have offensive line issues in Chicago." And I think he's not just going to be a deep threat this year. I think they're going to have to manufacture touches for Mooney. They're going to have to do those. They're going to have to do sweeps and quick slants to try to get him in space and take advantage of that speed and yards after the catch because that offensive line is just not going to be good this year, and Fields is going to be under pressure.
You got to get him involved. You can't have deep threats that get lulled to sleep the first half of the game, and it kind of takes them out of the game. And then here's the other thing, Matthew. Outside of Cole Kmet, who I know you are high on,
very high
in comparison where he's being drafted in Yahoo leagues, I mean, who else?
Exactly.
It's Mooney.
Right.
There's
I mean,
not even
Byron
close.
Pringle, like Velus Jones, and I like Byron Pringle actually.
For what they are.
Right, but Mooney is the number 1 wide receiver on a team that is going to have to throw, and so just massive target share there. I do not understand why A.J. Dillon, and I've been banging the drum here all preseason. He's finally up to running back 24 on Yahoo, but for a while he was going much deeper than that. I am as a top 20 running back. I am higher in both in the positional and the overall ranks, all in on A.J. Dillon. First off, Aaron Jones sometimes will miss a couple of games. When he misses games, A.J. Dillon is top 5 running back in fantasy. 21.2 fantasy points per game last year for Dillon when he was the number 1 running back for Green Bay. He had 8 different games last year with 15 or more touches, averaged 14.8 fantasy points per game in those games. And that's important because, again, with no Devontae Adams, they're going to lean on this run game even more. If you think about how the Packers are constructed this year, they've got a really good defense. They're playing at Lambeau. They've got an inexperienced pass attack. And so I think the running back, it's going to be a more balanced attack this year. Both running backs are going to get theirs. Obviously, Dillon led the team last year in red zone and goal-to-go carries. We expect that to continue this year. They're going to be in scoring position often, obviously. But the other thing about Dillon is that this wasn't part of his college game. This is probably not something you scouted, but he caught the ball last year.
Yes.
34 out of 37 receptions, and you're not like, that's not a huge number, but it
matters.
It matters. He proved to Aaron Rodgers, hey, get me the ball in space and I can actually catch this. Not something they asked him to do at Boston College.
Never. Literally never asked him. So to see that in the Green Bay offense is huge, and I love this one, first off. I want to say when I saw this, this is the one that I absolutely love because you see the running backs being drafted ahead of him that are also have interesting work shares. I don't understand it, and I don't want to give away any of the busts yet, but this one, to me, this offense can support 2 running backs because of how different they are. We know Aaron Jones is going to catch the ball. We know they're going to get a lot of carries. But the point that you made about A.J. Dillon just being a monster in the red zone, commanding so much of those carries, is what takes him over the top. Being significantly undervalued, not being top 20 on Yahoo is insane to me.
He was running back 23 in total points last year. He was running back 23. And that was last year when that they had Devontae Adams and they weren't, and they were just working him in. I mean, Matt LaFleur literally said, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are 1A and 1A. It is going to be a true split, and I do believe that offense will be able to support 2 fantasy relevant running backs. One team that usually doesn't support any fantasy relevant running backs is the New England Patriots because they're so committee heavy. But I'm in on one guy.
And it's not Damian Harris.
It is not Damian Harris.
Ramondre Stevenson.
It is Ramondre Stevenson. I am #Team Ramondre. Ramondre over Damian Harris. Yahoo has that reversed. They have Stevenson going as running back 32, 91st overall. Stevenson, I have running back 27, 72nd overall. So higher in the positional ranks, higher and significantly higher in the overall ranks. I think I think Stevenson has a real shot to be something special this year, and I also think he should be one of the top 0 RB targets. If you eschew running backs, by the way, first use of the word eschew on the happy hour. A little bit too big of a word here for the bar. But the fact is that if you blow off running backs at the top of your draft, Stevenson should be an early target. Had 5 different games last year with 12 or more touches. 18.5 fantasy points per game, had at least 75 yards from scrimmage in all of them. fifth among qualified running backs in yards per rush after first contact. 2 games with 35 or more receiving yards, and that's the key here. He's, of all the running backs that are on the Patriots right now, he's the only one that has 3-down ability. Harris is great. Harris is great between the tackles. He's not going to be really involved in the passing game, right? James White is retired. And so we'll see about Ty Montgomery, but ultimately I believe Stephenson gets almost all of the 3rd down work, and I think he splits the early down work with Harris. That's a team that wants to be run heavy this year.
And I'll throw this in. They are shifting to a zone scheme. They've been predominantly a man-power kind of scheme. His skill set fits that, not Damian Harris. I look at his skill set and go, yes, all of the workload in terms of being the receiving back is wide open, but he's actually the better early down runner, I think, for what they're trying to do on offense. I know it's been a little ugly over summer. A lot of people are starting to, panic over there, but this is going to be a run-first football team, and I think he's ready to be, finally, for New England, be the guy. He's their new LeGarrette Blount, in a sense, with a higher workload.
Yeah, I think he's gonna get. But LeGarrette Blount never caught passes.
No.
I mean, Stevenson's going to be a pass catcher as well. Again, under 150 touches for Stevenson last year in a productive rookie year. I think there's a chance he doubles that number. I think there's a chance he doubles that number this year. I'm all in on Team Ramondre. I had a source tell me that they think they're going to use him like Kamara, which would be like, and I was just
Very
like,
pass-heavy.
So we'll see. I mean, that's a sort like who knows, and but I thought that was interesting. I thought that was really, really interesting. All right, now we have to get to sad face.
Yeah.
Busts.
Friday vibes.
I wish we ran out of time with Coach Garrett yesterday, but I wish we could have asked him about Amari Cooper and see if he agreed with me on this. I want no part of Amari Cooper this year. No part. I have him. I'm lower on him than in the positional ranks on Yahoo. I'm lower on him in the consensus ranks. And even when it's gotten to a point where I should take him, I don't want to. I was in a 14-team league yesterday, and I went, it was a Superflex league, so I went quarterback heavy, and then I went Kyle Pitts in the 3rd, and then running backs. And so I was looking for wide receivers. I was sifting through the sand trying to find some wide receivers, and Amari Cooper just kept every round. I'm just like, nah. Here's my concern on Amari Cooper, right? And there's a lot. So last year, under 20% target share, career low. Under 58 receiving yards per game, career low. Lowest since 2017, I should say. Didn't get 1,000 yards since 2017. If you look at his splits in cold weather, not great. Now he's going to Cleveland. Cleveland, obviously, it's an outdoor stadium. It's cold, and it's windy. Like, think about how many games we've seen over the last couple of years where there's like this game in December in Cleveland, and it's like blowing around, and you're just like, they can't throw it all. And that was with like Baker Mayfield. And now they've got Jacoby Brissett. And everyone feel free to bag. If I'm a Baker fan. I think he's better than he gets credit for. I think he was in a tough situation in Cleveland. I'm looking forward to see what happens with him in Carolina. But whatever you think of Baker Mayfield, I don't think there's a lot of debate that he's better than Jacoby Brissett. And so, like, you're not getting DeShawn Watson there until week 13. And we don't know what we're going to see out of Watson, who's been basically out of football for 2 years at that point. Will have been out of football for more or less 2 years.
And looked rusty when we did get to see him. That's being kind.
Being kind. And so, I don't know. Amari Cooper, I think it's a low-volume offense that's going to want to try to grind it out and win with the run game. He'll get his, right? He's a talented player, right? He's going to be the number one option, and they got to throw to someone. I get all that, but I just, he's going at wide receiver 31, and you have to see some of the guys that are going around him. One of those heebie-jeebie guys that just gives me, someone else can have him for this year.
I'm with you. You always have to worry about being injured, being focused, and then now the Jacoby Brissett factor that completely flips the offense upside down for him. So for Cooper, it's hard to be really excited about the prospects of taking him as a top 30 wide receiver this year. I feel like some of the targets, too, in that offense, because of Jacoby, flipped to David Njoku. It's just going to be a tight end, middle-of-the-field passing attack, very run-heavy. That's not exciting for fantasy if you're looking at the wide receivers.
Especially because Cooper has made his living on those big plays.
Yeah.
And so, maybe next year, full year Watson, you could get into it. But anyway, he is a bust for me. Another bust for me, honestly, and this is more about draft position and roster construction than it is necessarily about the player. But I will say there's not much on tape after Cam Akers came back that makes you feel good about the player as well.
Well, he tried to,
Listen, it's a medical miracle that he came back at all last year.
It's insane.
Let's just ask and answer.
Right.
He is, It was a miracle. Like, all due respect to, amazing story for Cam Akers to even play in the playoffs last year after coming back after, tearing his Achilles. Like, that's ridiculous, right?
Yep. That's the glass half full that we saw Cam rushed back from an Achilles. Now he's had time.
Sure.
But we want to talk the half empty.
Yeah,
here.
Sure.
So what fascinates me is when they rested Kyren Williams the final preseason game. Rested Kyren Williams, a day 3 pick, who was the best pass-protecting running back in the draft last year.
Right.
Fell till day 3. Sean McVay seems very high on him. There's also 2 guys in front of him. So this, to me, could be less. Cam Akers could look great this year.
Yeah.
But what does that workload look like? And now if he's not the guy on third downs, you're basing it all on early downs work where he's still splitting those carries. Not even factoring that we don't know if he's the same guy anymore.
That's correct. So my concern is first off, yes, is it a 3-headed monster? Because Darrell Henderson was good last year. First 8 weeks of the season last year, Darrell Henderson was top 12 running back in fantasy. I mean, like, Darrell Henderson was really good. And at least last year, they didn't use the running backs in a passing game that much. No team in the NFL was worse in terms of running back target share last year than the Los Angeles Rams. Because they have Matthew Stafford, who's got this cannon of an arm, and they've got Cooper Kupp, and now they got Allen Robinson, and Tyler Higbee's a threat in the middle of the field, and they like Van Jefferson there as well. Like, they don't need to dump it off to the running back all that much. And Henderson is a nice pass catcher. And as you mentioned, Kyren Williams, really good in pass pro. So maybe he's out there, and so if a play breaks down, Stafford's dumping it off to him. So first off, it might be a 3-headed monster. So we're concerned about that. And we're concerned about the fact that we don't know if he's the same player. Again, after coming back from the Achilles, during that playoff run last year, he averaged 2.4 yards per carry. Sometimes people bounce right back, young players, and sometimes like Achilles injuries are like one of those that just sap and just some running backs never recover from it. And so will he have that burst that we saw prior to the injury? We don't know that. And the fact that he's going, and this is the biggest thing for me, he's going as running back 17. I would much rather take if I want a piece of the Rams running game, give me Darrell Henderson, 8 rounds later, than Cam Akers, who's going 36th overall.
Yeah,
I have him at 49th overall. And honestly, I think I'm probably too high on him. In terms of value, I'd much rather have Darrell Henderson or even take a dart throw on Kyren Williams than a top 17 pick among running backs on Cam Akers. He just makes me nervous.
It's a big investment, especially we just talked about A.J. Dillon, and he's not even in the stratosphere in terms of where
A.J. Dillon over Cam Akers all day, every day.
And the spots are 20 spot difference.
That's what you have to factor in. That's what you have to factor in. Listen, I hope I'm wrong. We root for Cam Akers, but if I'm wrong, it will be, he won't be on any of my teams this year because of what it costs to acquire him. He's in that running back dead zone that we talked about on the Draft Day Manifesto show earlier in the week, where it's just like, if you don't get an early running back, blow off running back for a couple of rounds. That rounds 4 through 6 running back dead zone, if ETN's there, there's 1 or 2 guys that you can live with, but other than that, I'm just sort of waiting for the A.J. Dillons, the Ramondre Stevensons of the world, not just grabbing a Cam Akers just to have a guy, or a Josh Jacobs, who's the next guy on my bust list here. I'm nervous. Again, this is somebody who last year and throughout his career has been touchdown and volume dependent. Last year he got the volume. Last year he also was involved in the passing game. But new offensive coordinator and new play caller, new regime. We've already seen the Raiders in this offseason, they got rid of a lot of the early picks of the previous regime.
That's what New England regimes do when they go somewhere else. They clean it out.
Yeah. And so Josh Jacobs was not a McDaniels guy. He sort of inherited him. I thought it was really telling, that first preseason game.
Hall of Fame game.
Hall of Fame game.
You're not supposed to know most of the people playing in the game.
Correct. Derek Carr didn't play in that game. Devonta Adams didn't play in that game. Darren Waller didn't play in that game.
Second quarter, Josh Jacobs should be run into the offensive line.
Right up the middle. What are we doing?
What are you doing here?
Yeah. So anyway, my concern on him is that he doesn't get the passing down work, because I think that's going to be Amir Abdullah. I think Zamir White definitely has a role in this offense. Yeah. Josh McDaniels, if you think about what he did in New England, he was a running back by committee guy, as we talked about it, Ramondre, right? I mean, we know never start a Patriots running back because you never know who it's going to be. He comes from that school, and I don't think he's had a running back get over 130 carries in a season since LeGarrette Blount. I could be wrong on that stat. Correct me if I'm wrong, Blake, but I think that's correct. And just instinctually, we know they're running back by committee. So here's Jacobs not getting the passing down work. He's splitting with Amir Abdullah and Zamir White on a team that, by the way, just added Devontae Adams, one of the best red zone wide receivers in the NFL. Like, I don't know if the touchdowns are even guaranteed. He's currently going as running back 22 on Yahoo. No, thank you.
It sounds like a Waller extension could get done. So you're looking at this being a Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow offense. They're not a good run-blocking offensive line to begin with.
No.
And that's going to take time with this regime to get going. So you look at Zamir. Two things that scared me, Matthew, right away. Not picking up the fifth-year option, it's always going to scare you.
Yeah.
Drafting Zamir White in the fourth round, that's a serious investment at running back. That's not seventh-round flyer or UDFA. That's a similar skill set to Josh Jacobs. Clang and bang in between the tackles, break tackles, grind out yards, grind out early downs. So I think it's crowded there for him, and I think he looks like the odd man out in the eyes of the coaching staff in terms of getting a big workload.
To your point about the offensive line, Raiders last year, 28th in yards per rush before first contact on running back carries.
He's not going to do it.
Not going to do it. By the way, and you don't need to, because you got Devontae Adams and Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow and a pretty good quarterback in Derek Carr. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.